In a world where a doctor's icy heart has never thawed for love, one desperate night with a girl who trades her dignity for survival sparks a forbidden fire that could either save or destroy them both. Dive into this tale of passion, betrayal, and redemption that will leave you breathless. Subscribe now to uncover the secrets that unravel when walls crumble. In the frostbitten heart of Chicago, Dr. Elias Hawthorne, a brilliant but reclusive cardiologist, was known as the Cold Doctor. For his surgical precision and impenetrable emotional walls, a man who had never let a woman's touch breach his sterile existence. His life a fortress of discipline forged by a childhood of neglect and a vow to never let vulnerability taint his purpose until a shivering girl named Leela, barely 20, with eyes like storm clouds and a past heavier than her threadbare coat, stumbled into his life one bitter December night. Her desperation for money to save her younger brother from a ruthless loan shark driving her to offer herself for a single night, a transaction that would unravel Elias's carefully constructed defenses and plunge them both into a whirlwind of desire, deceit, and danger. At 42, Elias was a paradox, a healer of hearts who had never known love. His days spent in the sterile glow of operating rooms, his nights in a penthouse as cold as his demeanor, where he sipped whiskey alone, haunted by memories of a mother who abandoned him and a father whose fists taught him that emotions were weaknesses to be crushed. His only solace found in the rhythmic beep of heart monitors and the scalpel's clean slice, a world where control was paramount and women were mere shadows he never allowed close, their flirtations deflected with a glacial stare that earned him his moniker. Leela, however, was no shadow. She was a tempest, her beauty raw and unpolished, her auburn hair tangled from the wind, her lips trembling as she stood outside his private clinic after hours, clutching a crumpled flyer she'd found on a lamppost advertising discreet services, her heart pounding with shame but driven by the image of her brother Milo, only 16, beaten and bleeding in a back alley for a debt their deadbeat father left behind, a debt now owned by Victor Crane, a lone shark whose name sent shivers through Chicago's underbelly. She'd heard rumors of Elias's wealth, his solitary life, and in her desperation, she saw a chance. A night for enough cash to pay off Victor and save Milo, a bargain she loathed but couldn't refuse. Knocking on the clinic's glass door, her breath fogging in the cold, she expected rejection, but Elias, working late on a research paper, opened the door, his steel, gray eyes narrowing at the sight of her. Not with disgust, but with a curiosity he couldn't name, her boldness stirring something dormant in him, a flicker of warmth he'd long buried. "I need money," she blurted, voice cracking, "and I'll do anything for it. One night, that's all I'm asking." Elias's jaw tightened, his first instinct to slam the door, but her eyes, raw with pain and defiance, held him captive, and against every rule he'd ever set, he let her in, not for the offer but for the mystery of why she'd risk such humiliation. Inside, the clinic was a sterile labyrinth, its white walls and antiseptic scent a stark contrast to Leela's vibrant chaos, her coat dripping melted snow onto the floor as she explained her plight. Milo, the debt, Victor's threats, her words tumbling out like a confession, and Elias, trained to diagnose, saw not just desperation, but a fierce love for her brother that mirrored a loyalty he'd never known. He should have sent her away, called the police, or offered charity. But instead he heard himself say one night, no touching, just company, 5 Zalosen, a deal born not from desire but from a need to understand her, to test the boundaries of his own isolation. Leela, stunned by the offer, agreed, sensing the money could free Milo, but as they sat in his office, her sharing stories of her brother's dreams and her own lost aspirations to be a painter, Elias found himself listening, truly listening, her voice weaving through the cracks in his armor, her laughter at a childhood memory of Milo stealing her paints, stirring a smile he hadn't felt in years. The night deepened, and with whiskey loosening their guards, Leela's hand brushed his as she reached for her glass, a spark igniting between them, not of lust but of connection, a dangerous current that made Elias pull back, his walls trembling. He paid her, sent her away at dawn, but her scent lingered, haunting him through sleepless nights, her face flashing in his mind during surgeries, a distraction he couldn't afford. Leela, meanwhile, used the money to pay Victor, only to discover the shark's greed had no end. He demanded more, threatening Milo's life unless she delivered double by week's end, a trap that sent her back to Elias not for money but for help, her pride shattered but her resolve ironclad. Elias, torn between his vow to stay detached and the inexplicable pull toward her, agreed to confront Victor, a decision that thrust him into a world he'd never known. Chicago's gritty underworld, where his wealth and status meant nothing against Victor's brute force. In a tense meeting at a derelict warehouse, Elias offered to pay off Leela's debt entirely, but Victor, sensing weakness, revealed a twist. He'd been watching Elias, knowing the doctor's reputation and solitude made him a target for exploitation, and now demanded not just money but Elias's medical expertise to patch up his injured men, pulling him into a criminal web. Lila, horrified, tried to refuse, but Elias, seeing her terror for Milo, agreed, his cold facade cracking as he realized he was protecting not just her but the part of himself she'd awakened. Over weeks, Elias worked in secret, stitching up thugs under Victor's watchful eye, each job drawing him closer to Leela, their stolen moments in his penthouse filled with whispered confessions, his of a loveless past, hers of dreams buried under survival. Their bond grew, a fragile thread in a dangerous game, until one night, Victor's men caught Leela trying to steal evidence to free them, and in a brutal twist, they beat her, leaving her broken in an alley. Elias found her, his hands so steady in surgery, shaking as he carried her to his clinic, saving her life with the same skill he'd used to save countless others. But this time, his heart was in his throat, her pain shattering his walls entirely. As she recovered, their connection deepened, a kiss stolen in the dark of his penthouse marking the point of no return, his vow against touch broken by a love he couldn't deny. But the story wasn't over. Victor, enraged by their defiance, kidnapped Milo, forcing Elias to make an impossible choice: perform a risky, illegal surgery to save Victor's dying brother or lose Milo forever. In a heart-pounding climax, Elias, with Leela by his side, executed the surgery, his hand steady despite the stakes, but as Victor's brother flatlined, chaos erupted and Leela, using her street smarts, distracted Victor's men, giving Elias time to get Milo out. In the aftermath, with Victor arrested after a police raid tipped off by an anonymous call, Leela's final gambit, they were free, but the cost was heavy. Elias's reputation teetered, his involvement with Victor's crew a secret that could ruin him. Yet, in a quiet moment, as snow fell outside his penthouse, Leela painted a portrait of him, not the cold doctor, but the man who'd risked everything for her. And he, holding her close, knew his walls were gone, replaced by a warmth he'd never thought possible. Their future uncertain, but together, a heartbeat shared in a world no longer cold.